Okay, we already talked about how I made this frame for the canvas welcome sign for my brother and sister-in-law's wedding. But now let me show you how I actually made the canvas sign. We have had this fabric in our stash for well over 10 years. I think we used it for something for my high school graduation party, which was country western theme, but I always kept it because I knew I would need it one day, and that day has finally come. So like I said in my last video about me making the frame, I'm looking at the listings for other signs like this that you could buy on the internet just to get the dimensions, measuring it out, marking it, all that stuff. I put the dimensions for the frame and this canvas sign down in the caption. Like I said, this was scrap material that we had in our stash, so the edges are not perfectly straight. Some of them are frayed, some of them aren't. So I'm doing my best at measuring and cutting here, but I know that ultimately once I put it on the actual frame, that's when I'm gonna make the adjustments to make sure it's even and level and all that stuff. And now we go to the Cricut. I recently got rid of my 12 by 24 mat. It just wasn't sticking anymore and I forgot to buy a new one, so I had to break up all the names to get them to cut and fit on the 12 by 12 mat. I can do a full tutorial for that if anybody wants, let me know. But I'm just using regular adhesive vinyl. I'm not doing heat transfer vinyl. I didn't think I needed it, and it turns out I was right. I did not feel like going downstairs to get my scraper, so I'm using a spatula to help the vinyl stick to this material. I do this with transfer tape. I do it when I'm transferring to the actual finished product. All you have to do when you're having really stubborn vinyl not coming off in the transfer tape is put a spatula or a scraper on top of this transfer tape where it's not sticky with your dominant hand, and then with your non-dominant hand, you want to pull the transfer tape off, keeping the spatula or the scraper firm against the product. The scraper or spatula will only be moving when the left hand, or your non-dominant hand, is pulling the transfer tape and the transfer tape is pushing the scraper. I hope that made sense, but this method has never, ever, ever failed me. If you do have a 12 by 24 mat, this process is going to go a lot quicker for you than it did for me because I have to tape things together and make sure it's all lined up and whatnot, but this is just a workaround if you don't have that extra long mat. You can do heat transfer vinyl. I've seen people use fabric pens with this, paint markers, but I just thought Cricut was the way to go. So to make the seam now, I'm using Stitch Witchery. I love this stuff. I use it all the time. I've used it on curtains. I've used it on clothes. You just take a piece of the Stitch Witchery, put it where you want the seam to go, take a damp towel, and hold your iron over it for 10 seconds. The instructions may vary by brand, so just make sure you're reading that, but it is foolproof. It works perfectly. Once that is done, I just have to thread it right on the frame that I made. Since I used PVC pipe, I was just able to disconnect it and slide it right on there. Now I am steaming it, but I'm being very careful near the vinyl because you don't want the heat to cause the vinyl to peel. And here she is. Please check out the frame construction video. I'm so proud of that video. All materials are linked in the bio under my Lowe's storefront. You have to try this cheap and easy DIY.